So, what is consciousness, really? That feeling of being, well, you. Is it just a neat trick your brain is playing, or is there something more going on? Today, we're diving into a theory that gets right to the heart of that very question. Okay, let's start with what we know. The brain, right? It's a physical thing, a super complex bundle of neurons and chemicals. But what about your thoughts, your feelings, your experience of, well, everything? Is that really all it is? Is your mind just your brain, or is there more to the story? All right, to really dig into this, we're not going to start with some boring textbook definition. Nope. We're going to use a famous thought experiment, a little story from a philosopher named Frank Jackson. It's designed to really push the boundaries of what we consider to be purely physical. So let's meet Mary. She's this incredible neuroscientist. And when I say she knows everything about color vision, I mean everything. She knows the exact wavelength of red. She knows the precise chain of neurons that fire in your brain when you see it. She knows the whole physical story, inside and out. But, and this is a big but, there's a catch. Mary has spent her whole life locked away in a black and white room. She only sees the world on a black and white screen. So she can tell you exactly what's happening in your brain when you look at a red rose, but she herself has never, ever experienced the color red. Okay, so here's the big question. One day, the door opens, she walks out, and she sees a red rose for the very first time. Does she learn anything new? Think about it. She already knew every single physical fact there was to know. So if the answer is yes, if she does learn something, then that suggests there's a kind of knowledge that isn't just physical, right? Now, most people, when they hear this, their gut reaction is, yeah, of course she learned something. And it's that exact intuition that cracks open the door to this really cool idea, a theory trying to connect our physical brain with, our inner world of experience. And that theory is called property dualism. Now, hold on. It's not saying your mind is some kind of ghost or soul floating around. No. The idea is that the whole world is made of one kind of stuff, physical stuff. But some of that physical stuff, like our brains, has two totally different types of properties, physical ones and these other non-physical mental ones. So think of it like this. On one side of the coin, you've got physical properties, stuff science can measure, mass, charge, chemical makeup. But on the other side, you have these mental properties. Philosophers have a fancy word for them, qualia. And that's just the what it's likeness of an experience, the actual feeling of pain, the taste of your morning coffee, the experience of seeing that color red. That's the new thing Mary learns. A philosopher named David Chalmers puts this beautifully. He calls it the hard problem of consciousness. See, explaining what the brain does, how it processes information, how it controls our bodies, that's the easy problem. I mean, it's not easy, but it's solvable by science. The hard problem is explaining why all that mechanical processing feels like something from the inside. Why isn't it all just dark? Okay, let's look at another one. There's a different thought experiment that explores the exact same idea, but honestly, it's a little creepier. All right, imagine a perfect copy of you. I mean, perfect. It walks like you, talks like you. Even the brain scans are identical, atom for atom. If you poke it, it says ouch, just like you would. But here's the crazy part. On the inside, nothing. There's no feeling, no experience, no awareness. The lights are on, but nobody's home. That is a philosophical zombie. So the argument goes like this. Can you imagine this zombie twin? Does the idea make sense without, breaking the laws of logic? If you can even conceive of it, then maybe it's possible in some way. And if it's possible for something to be physically identical to you but not have consciousness, well, then consciousness must be something extra, something added on top of all the physical stuff. Now, these thought experiments sound pretty convincing, right? But the physicalists, the people who argue that everything, including our minds, is 100% physical, they've got some really smart counterarguments. They're not going down without a fight. So let's break down their objections. For Mary's room, they say, look, Mary doesn't learn a new fact. She just gains a new skill, the ability to recognize red, to imagine it. And for the zombie argument, they basically say, hey, just because you can imagine something doesn't mean it's actually possible in the real world. I can imagine a pig flying, but that doesn't mean it can happen. Okay, here's the strongest comeback, and it's a good one. Think about water. For thousands of years, people knew about water, right? The clear liquid stuff. They had a concept for it. They did not, however, have the concept of H2O. So you have two different concepts, water
and H2O, but they both point to the very same thing in the real world. And that is the absolute core of the physicalist argument. They say when Mary sees red, she's not discovering some new non-physical thing about the universe. She's just gaining a new concept for a physical thing she already knew everything about. It's like she already knew the science of red in one language, and now she's just learned the experience language for it. Same thing, different label.
But wait, the story of Mary's room isn't over. There is one last twist. And honestly, it's a shocker. And it comes from the guy who invented the whole thing.
You heard that right. Frank Jackson himself, the philosopher who came up with Mary's room as this killer argument against physicalism, well, he changed his mind. He later came out and said, yeah, you know what? I don't think my argument works anymore.
And his reasoning was actually pretty simple. He said, think about it. The process of Mary seeing that rose, her brain reacting to the light, her having that aha moment, that's all a physical process happening in her brain. So he figured, if the act of learning is physical, then whatever she learns must also be physical. So, where are we now? Is the mystery solved? Not by a long shot. This debate is still raging, and the puzzle of consciousness is still one of the biggest, most mind-bending questions in all of science and philosophy. What we're left with is this incredible tension between two things that both feel true. On the one hand, your own experience, what it's like to be you, feels like the most real thing there is. But on the other hand, science has had jaw-dropping success explaining the universe as a closed physical system, where everything just boils down to physical causes and effects. And that's the real pickle for property dualism. It's a nice attempt to have its cake and eat it too, but it leaves us with these really tough questions, like if these mental properties aren't physical, how in the world did they evolve? And if they don't actually do anything in the physical world, then what are they even for? And that leaves us with the ultimate question to chew on. Is that inner world of yours, all the colors, sounds, feelings, and thoughts, is it a fundamental feature of the universe? Or is it just an incredibly elegant illusion, like a desktop on a computer, created by the machinery in your head to help you get by in a world that's ultimately just particles and forces? The answer? Well, that's still up for grabs.